Obviously, what we do is in person. Even Teams calls don't work. Webinars, I steer away from them. We're an in-person group. So when the in-person was shut down, that greatly affected our association. So I came in about mid 2023, observed, just kind of looked at how the year had been laid out and finished it. And then 2024 was go time. So as I previously mentioned, the first thing I did is look at what can everybody agree upon? Well, usually it's a problem that something isn't working, and that was workforce. There were huge gaps in the workforce pipeline. There are a large number of individuals who are aging out of industry, and shops were, I don't know a nicer way to say this, but stealing employees from one another.
In a corporate world where all employees have great leaders with no egos that create fun cultures where people can do their best work, the employees and companies thrive while doing great things for the customers, themselves, and each other.
Well, we know that rarely happens. I'm Jeff Palacio. I have been a leader for over 40 years for every t-shirt size company, from small 16 employees to extra large over 1 million. Please join me while I interview outstanding leaders that will share stories of great leadership and not so great. It will help you become a better leader while poking fun about all the crazy shit that happens in corporate America.
Hi, I'm Joe Deshawn, and welcome to The Corporate Couch with Jeff Palacio. Today's episode is brought to you by Palacio and Partners, providing turnkey podcast creation, hosting, production, promotion, and related creative resources for you and your business. Today, Jeff is interviewing Katherine O'Toole. Katherine is an executive director, a career and technical education advocate, and a workforce development champion. She currently serves as executive director of the Kansas City chapter of the National Tooling and Machining Association, where she spearheads networking, advocacy, and workforce development initiatives. Katherine is also a founding member of She Leads, Women Driving Manufacturing, a network of leaders dedicated to educating and empowering women in and around the manufacturing industry. Prior to entering industry, she spent 11 years as an elementary educator in the Gardner-Edgerton School District. Let's listen as Jeff talks to Katherine.
Katherine, welcome to the Corporate Couch this afternoon.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Yeah, very excited to talk to you. One of my favorite people out there in the Kansas City and national community is Fred Stepkovitz. He introduced us.
Yes. Yeah.
So
He's a great guy.
love Fred. Well, I maybe you'll say he's a great guy now, but actually I pinged Fred for a couple fun questions to ask you.
Oh, goodness.
Yeah.
Oh, that's scary.
Yeah. So what I thought, let's start with those fun questions. So talk to me about your skill in terms of backing up an automobile.
Oh, gosh. Well, one thing you would never count on me for is to be the driver on a road trip. I am a great passenger princess. I will bring the snacks and some good stories and conversation, but I should not probably be driving anybody anywhere.
Okay.
And don't ever look too close in my car if you see it in a parking lot.
I love that.
I blame my teenage daughter a lot, but it's really me.
Tell me about how chickens sometimes affect your work life in terms of being for meetings and maybe having an extra guest at a Zoom meeting, maybe under your shirt.
Well, I wish I could take the laptop right now. I actually have 2 baby chicks in my basement office here with me. So you may get a little cheep or a scuffle in the background. So that is definitely happening live today. I did have a podcast interrupted by a chicken escaping from its pen, and I had to go chase that down. We do live outside of town in the country here. So it's really like hawks or like birds would be a predator during the daytime. And I love my chickens. I'm a chicken mom.
I love that. You're definitely the first chicken mom on the Corporate Couch. So there you go. Or any type of chicken parent. Katherine, where'd you grow up, and what was fun for you growing up?
I grew up in the Kansas City area. Well, that's an interesting question. I was an only child, and I was pretty sheltered growing up. So I spent a lot of time just kind of like exploring, being outdoors, something I still love to do with my kids. I like to draw. I spend a lot of time just kind of like practicing art and grandma hobbies at a very young age, cooking and sewing and things like that. Hence the chickens now, right? Continuing the grandma hobbies.
Right. Yeah, I love it. I love it. Did you have any aspirations, when you're like 12 or 13? Hey, when I grow up, I'm going to be this. Did you have any of that growing up?
I grew up in a very traditional household. So, okay and obey was definitely a command that was reiterated throughout my upbringing. My mom was a teacher. She taught for 38 years, was an amazing public servant, and I became a teacher. I really didn't have a second thought about that until I kind of inched closer to age 40 and realized, like, I think I'd kind of like to do something a little different, do a little bit more, and really see what I'm capable of.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about that. So you go to K-State, get your elementary education degree, go right into teaching. It sounds like at Sunflower Elementary. What I find interesting, Linda Endicott, she runs the executive MBA program at Rockhurst University, and she's a well-recognized Kansas City, I'll say matriarch. She knows a lot of people, and she's one of the most lovely people that I've ever met, and she's a gift to Kansas City. But she started her career as a kindergarten teacher, and she was sharing with me some of her learnings from that and later on in life. So talk to me about how, what you learned in almost 11 years in the elementary school teaching and how that applies to what you're doing today, being the executive director of the Kansas City chapter of the National Tooling and Machinery Association.
Okay. Well, I think I had an amazing teaching career. I loved the school where I worked. I loved my coworkers. I loved my students. People often ask me why I left, and it was just timing, really, and what was right for my family. I think one thing that I used to find success as an educator was first looking for ways students might fail, what might be the most difficult concept or the hardest for students to conceptualize, and starting with the misunderstandings and kind of teaching backwards. And really, when you troubleshoot in advance, you really catch and kind of just kids stay more encouraged, I guess, is what I would say. They aren't as frustrated. They keep their motivation. They're feeling more proud about their accomplishments. So that is definitely something I use in business today. I look at pain points that are common amongst member shops, members of the National Tooling and Machining Association. And that's really the foundation for how I plan events and activities for us professionally.
My brother and my sister-in-law are both long-term elementary school teachers, and what I could see too is like it's so much leadership in terms of you're leading, whatever the class size is, 25, 30, whatever it is, and they're all different personalities, all have different ways to
Life
learn.
experiences, yeah, levels of apprehension, especially in kindergarten, like you mentioned. I taught 1 year of kindergarten, 5 years of first grade, and then spent the rest of my career in the fourth grade. But kindergarten, especially, is a true case of the haves and have-nots. You have kids that don't know the letters in the alphabet. Even if their name is AJ, they can't write that down. And then you have kids who are fluently reading. It's definitely a very interesting dynamic.
One of my most traumatic school experiences was kindergarten. I did not know how to tie a shoe, and they were passing the fake shoe around.
Yep.
And I was like terrified because I'm like, and I watched everybody. We were in a circle. I watched everybody that could tie, and they came to me, and I actually did tie the shoe. But I'm still, I think,
You did or you
seeking
didn't?
therapy. I did. I did do it.
Okay, good
At
job,
least
Jeff. You did it.
it,
Nailed
it,
it.
it,
Hey,
it
peer
just
pressure
that's
sometimes
my
a good thing.
recollection. So,
Yeah. I
but
mean, it's
yeah,
amazing. I
still,
think overall that is really something I learned in teaching. Never assume anything. Never assume everybody knows how to button their pants, tie the shoe, hold scissors. And I know I'm probably an over communicator now, but I think it comes from some of that assumptions can really have detrimental effects at times. So start with a level playing ground for everybody.
yeah, yeah. No, it's no, and I think as you know, I mean, being a teacher, people always, no matter how old they are, they remember their best teachers they ever had at every level.
whether that's elementary, junior high, or high school or college. So it's a great. Um,
I tell you, it's very rewarding. Now I get to invite some of my previous students to come to events, which is so cool. And
yeah,
to, connect them with mentors, they've graduated college or they're preparing to do so, and they're looking into marketing or whatever, their major may be. And to be able to plug them in with great people and support them just in a different realm is pretty awesome.
yeah. It's so interesting. Yeah, I can still remember, like, I was 17, 18 years old, and I saw my junior high, middle school gym coach and freshman high school football coach at the movies with his wife, or maybe it was girlfriend at the time. I don't know. But I was like terrified. I'm like, oh my God, like I'm seeing a teacher out. Like I'm like, you don't think they're real,
They
like
don't think you leave school. They're shocked to see you in public because they
right,
just associate you with that space and nowhere else. But it was definitely
right.
fun having kids the same age as the kids I was teaching. Also, a
Yeah,
unique dynamic when it comes
right.
to who's coming to birthday parties or who's going to be on your sports team and all of those things. But that
Yeah,
was a
yeah.
fun time.
So your kids went to the same Sunflower where you taught?
They did. My older two
Oh,
children did. Yes.
oh,
Hmm.
nice. Oh, yeah, that'd be really nice.
Then when I left teaching, my youngest transitioned to our neighborhood school, but the counselor at that school, I was actually her mentor teacher. So it's really cool to see her now in that role. She's a phenomenal counselor. She actually gave me a sourdough bread lesson yesterday. So
Nice, nice.
still very connected with her, but
And you can't. I mean, you couldn't teach your own kids right in the class because
you
there's
actually
some
can.
rule.
Yeah.
Oh, you
No,
can.
that is not a
Okay.
rule. Yeah. At
Oh,
least in the
okay.
Gordon-Edgerton district at Sunflower Elementary at the time I was there, that was permittable. And sometimes, teachers would actually request to have their own student in their
Okay.
class. I
Yeah.
never did that. Yeah.
No,
We probably needed a break from each other.
talk about any like real fun things that happened, with your students, like some funny event or funny thing that happened that was that you would want to share amongst the podcast universe.
I'd have to think on that one, but our teaching team was just pretty amazing. Testing used to be a really big thing, state assessments, and they used to get played up. We had testing T-shirts, testing kickoff assemblies. One of my probably proudest teaching moments, I don't even remember what the theme of the state assessment was, but it was something musical related. And so each grade level performed. They did like a lip sync kind of thing. And we wrote Run DMC. I don't know what the exact title of the song is, but it's Tricky, I
Nice,
think. And we turned it
nice.
into This Test is Tricky. And we had different testing strategies and we
Wow,
had a choreographed dance routine. It was pretty legit. So
love that.
yeah,
Wow.
we actually we won a Blue Ribbon Award, which is the highest award that
Yeah,
an education facility can receive. So we got
yeah.
to go to Washington, D.C., and about 15 of us went to accept that award together. We went
Wow.
on a ghost tour. Several of us dressed in our Run DMC tracksuits in case we needed to run from the
Wow.
spirits,
God.
but just always a good time.
That's fantastic. I love that. So, I'm sure you could just tell your spirit and energy. I'm sure you were a fantastic teacher. So, Catherine, what was the impetus to you to kind of say, okay, I need to explore something else in my life now, and I gave teaching my best, and now it's time for me to do something different.
Well, I was in a time period in my life where I felt like if my children were involved in it, then I needed to be involved in it too. So I was coaching numerous youth sports teams, teaching in the youth room at church, leading Girls on the Run, which is a very young female empowerment initiative, obviously running based, and kind of running every which way, cooking meals for the community, just very invested in a whole lot of things. And at that time, I felt that it was best to kind of narrow down and focus just on my family. And quite honestly, our youngest, his daycare provider, retired from daycare. So then rather than find another babysitter, I stayed home for 2 years and kind of watched some of her kiddos. And then I ended up going to work for one of the dads that I watched his two babies, and also one of my former teaching coworkers' husband. And that was my first transition into business. And they had a custom home building and remodeling company. And they very graciously took me on as their office manager. So I was able to provide some of that organization that is definitely needed in an elementary classroom for them, help with some of their systems, their social media, kind of getting them online, getting them going. They had no presence there. And they really taught me how to make decisions on my own and not seek guidance for every move and affirmation for everything that I felt like I needed to get an okay for. I realized that it was more okay to take a risk and figure it out on my own than mess up. And that is not something I had experienced previously in my life.
What else was a surprise for you? Because, teaching, you're in this environment of pretty much it's laid out, lessons plans, schedules, very, regimented basically. Uh, Now, obviously, you're yearish or, whatever, however long you stayed and did daycare, that was probably unregimented. Anything could happen.
I would actually have a hard time going back into education. So I was very much involved with project-based learning. So everything that my students did connected. So social studies into science, even into mathematics, reading, art. I cooked with my students every week or every other week. So everything had like a culminating activity, a performance piece. We were doing things with other grade levels, involving parents in those things. We were rewriting stories and performing them, creating 3D models of things, having a science fair, a state float parade, market day where they made and sold products. So it would be really hard for me to go back to teaching now, where it is a little bit more scripted and textbook based. That would not be my jam.
Right.
Yeah, I guess is why I love the freedom that I have now to
Yeah.
have an idea to run with it.
Katherine, I'll have to ask you about a science fair as a random question. Sorry about this, but did you ever disqualify a student because the parent obviously did the project and built whatever, and that you knew the student was
Well,
not
Jeff,
capable of
again,
doing it?
I'm going to tell you what, I'm always thinking ahead. So even if they did portions of their project at home, we had them build their
Yeah.
backboards in their presentation at school. So actually,
Okay.
it was quite shocking to those parents who were probably doing a lot of the things at home prior to fourth grade to come and see what it actually looked like when their kiddo did their own project. So I'll tell you
Wow.
one, though, that was really a unique project. And I've seen, several times like reels maybe on social media about this, where you have two plants. I've seen it done both with plants and rice. And to one plant or bowl of rice, you speak positively, you affirm it, which seems silly. And then to the other, though, it's negative talk, it's discouraging words, it's hateful. And I tell you what, they are affected. Like the rice literally molds, it turns a different color, and the plant as well. Growth, very visually different. Like that was definitely a notable, cool science project.
Wow. That is amazing. I love that. That is, wow. God. I wish I wish I was in your class. Wow. That's
I'll tell you a market day project I was traumatized by, making rock candy. So it's very hard when you involve students of different mindsets in group work. Rock candy seemed to be what these kiddos could agree upon, but trying to get syrup to a certain temperature in a school kitchen under the supervision of myself or a para-educator, kind of tag teaming in and out. And then I had a student who was very fixated on rock jokes at the same time. So trying to get everybody's hands involved, meanwhile hearing, countless rock jokes. That was another standout memory.
I love it. Uh, what was the other big aha when you became the office manager of that contracting company? I mean, was it, like obviously the decision making you felt, like you had to ask, but was there anything else like, oh, wow, I didn't know this exists when you're, not being a teacher type thing?
Well, that's a good question. I would say, there's just definitely obviously getting different mindsets, kind of like I mentioned with the rock candy situation, but to agree upon and settle upon a tracking system or a plan, truly how hard that can be when everybody has their own opinion. Maybe just seeing that carry over into the adult world as well, but then seeing the real consequences of that, money, loss of time, which is money, and how, detrimental that can be to a small business. So I knew that because I grew up with a family business. My family had a tool and die shop, which is why I love what I do. Now we primarily serve small and medium-sized enterprise, but definitely just how one decision can have a huge impact. And that impact could be the ability to keep somebody else on and keep them employed.
Yeah. So talk about that transition. I mean, I know you have that, your dad, I think, had a tool and die shop, so it was in your DNA, I'll say. So, and
Yeah.
then what a great
That's a
job
very
to go.
common question I get. Like, how did you get this job? How does this fit with you? You know?
Yeah, but to talk about that transition, and you become the executive director of the Kansas City chapter of the National, Tooling and Machinery Association. So talk
Yeah, good
about
job. You
that.
got all those letters in there, Jeff.
I know. I
Mhm.
practiced a lot.
Yeah. So, which I don't know how personal we want to get into this conversation, but
Not
several
personal.
times I was presented with the opportunity to come on as executive director for the NTMA, and it just never was right. I was teaching, I had just accepted the position as office manager, but my middle son actually, as soon as he was born and they cut the umbilical cord, he went into cardiac arrest and heart failure. And they actually waited 4 hours for him to pass away before he was transported. So his blood
Oh,
acid levels were so high and his oxygen levels were so low. Life was truly not sustainable. So they took us to say goodbye to him,
oh
which
my
was
God.
probably watching them artificially sustain his life through manual things they were doing to his body was like the hardest thing I've ever experienced.
Oh my God.
But he just wanted quick kicking. So they went ahead, they transported him. Again, they took pictures for us, didn't think he would make it there. They had an opening in the heart lab there, and they punched a hole in his heart. So his red and blue blood had no mixing whatsoever due to the defect he had, which is completely different. He had something called transposition of the great artery, or TGA arteries. And some kiddos can go up to 6 weeks before it's detected, but with him, the moons of his nails and then the ring around his nipple instantly went blue. So like it was bad as soon as he was born. Um, they kept him on life support for 2 weeks. Usually the open heart surgery takes place at like 3 days. But he had such a terrible lung infection from all the acid, they could not perform his surgery. So kind of waited while the hole in his heart that they had punched was starting to close and he could no longer be on the medication that was artificially keeping it open. So they're like, okay, got to do surgery. They took us to meet a family who, after open heart, had to remove their child from a bypass machine because he could not breathe on his own or continue with the functions he would need. They thought our son would be very similar. So went through that experience, also, horrific, but he makes it through surgery. And they're preparing us due to the acid that had surrounded his brain and vital organs. He would never do PE. He would have major cognitive delays, inability to do a lot of just typical, kiddo things. And in spite of everything and being in the hospital and having multiple other complications, he is doing amazing now. And that took a lot of early intervention, a lot of support. That is in large part to the teachers at Sunflower that I worked with, infant toddler
Wow.
services, and just a lot of, I'm going to give myself a pat on the back, mom doing the thing. So,
Yeah. Sure.
and
God.
family, we could not have done it without our family, hands down,
Yeah.
especially grandparents helping. But he's a varsity athlete now and he is
Wow.
back in public school. But there was a time period where we had to remove him when I was working in the construction office from the public school setting. And we were doing a homeschool cooperative. So, like his brain and hand just weren't connecting. So, like, taking notes, lining up numbers for a math problem,
Right.
that short-term memory recognition. So like trying to even remember what he had written because his handwriting was so illegible, he couldn't. It
Right.
wasn't working, and he needed some more strategy work with dictation and some things that the school systems were not able to incorporate or to follow through upon. So I had to step back from the construction office. They needed some more hours than I was able to give. I took on this role of executive director, which had an opportunity, I'm an independent contractor, to build my own schedule. So I could work when he was at school and kind of plan things around. And that is what ultimately pushed me into this position. That's a really long story. So thanks for bearing with me.
No, oh my God, that's just, I mean, my second child, my son Nick, I mean, 2 weeks after he was born, he had this high fever, and when we went to the pediatrician first, I did, and brought him, and they said, you need to go right to Children's Mercy right now. I mean, so they thought he had meningitis, spinal meningitis. So I still remember I stayed with him, and it was the Oscars, and that was the year Tom Hanks won for Philadelphia, because I was just in his room. But and obviously mine was just a isolated incident. But I can't imagine, what you went through.
Oh,
Oh,
it's
he
such a
was,
crazy
yeah,
time.
yeah.
And just being so
Wow.
sick and your anything that would contribute to a positive immune system is destroyed. So
Yes.
any little illness or any little common kid thing just becomes like amplified to the 1 millionth degree. So glad to be where we're at in life now, but also glad to have that experience and be able to be there for other families.
No, I'm sure. Wow. Yeah, I wasn't expecting that. I mean, that's yeah, to go through something like that. I mean, kudos to your family and your son for the resilience, and I'm sure it was so difficult. So, um,
Yes, and I think sometimes when you have a lot going on behind the scenes, but you appear very typically developing, life can be hard. And
yeah,
it's hard to have a child with unique needs whatsoever. But I
yeah,
think when you're expected to be typical performing because you look, quote, typical, that
yeah,
adds kind of an extra layer to it. But he's worked so hard. And
yeah.
my other kiddos have been as great as they can be and accepting too and helpful.
Catherine, I'm going to say out of about 200 guests on the corporate couch, I think you might be the first one to head up an association. So, talk about what an association does and your involvement, obviously at the Kansas City level, and obviously you roll up to the national. I'll just say the NTMA, so I don't have to
You
say the
got
whole
it.
thing out.
Everything in manufacturing, Jeff, is an acronym. And it's very confusing initially. It's taken me 3 years to sort all those acronyms out and put the right people with
I'm
the right
sure.
letters.
I'm sure.
Yeah. Well, I came into an association that was operating, post COVID. So obviously, what we do is in person. Even Teams calls don't work. Webinars, I steer away from them. We're an in-person group. So when the in-person was shut down, that greatly affected our association. So I came in about mid 2023, observed, just kind of looked at how the year had been laid out and finished it. And then 2024 was go time. So as I previously mentioned, the first thing I did is look at like, what can everybody agree upon? Well, usually it's a problem that something isn't working, and that was workforce. There were huge gaps in the workforce pipeline. There are a large number of individuals who are aging out of industry, and shops were, I don't know a nicer way to say this, but stealing employees from one another. So if that was going to take away from membership, what could we do to stop that and actively solve that problem? So 2024, 2025, we're dedicated to workforce development. And quite frankly, we're still continuing those efforts now. So as a leader of our association, I would say I come with the ideas. And then I look for the people that can support those ideas. And again, those ideas are all to benefit member businesses and companies and help them do better business.
I don't know if Fred is still the active president of
He is
the board.
actually our past president now.
Past president.
So he
Okay.
was our 2025 president, still remains on the board, very actively involved. And Fred was my first go-to, ironically.
Yeah.
So the first thing I did was try to visit in 2023 all of our member shops or anyone that would reply to an email to allow me to come and visit. And now I'm to the point I'll just show up. So had a great conversation with him, and he did not even know they were members of the NTMA. So that's kind of gives you a current
Oh,
state of
wow.
affairs where we were at with things. And he's like, what, who are you? I'm like, hey, let's change this. If you don't know about this and other people probably don't know about it, let's make a plan to make that better. So he was our first shop that opened its doors for a shop tour in 2024. And that's where we started with workforce. At that time, I begged and pleaded any education contact that would hear me out to come and be a part of our event. And I got four.
Right.
Four representatives from the education world to come and speak with us. And several of them, actually three of them, are still very active partners in the events that we do now.
Oh, nice.
But it is crazy that list of four now has grown to like 30 different school districts and education partners. So it was shocking to me how hard it was to get educators and schools involved. Knowing that not everybody is college bound. We're working hard to change that mindset. I have a lot of thoughts about that, so we can circle back, Jeff.
Yeah. Oh,
But
I love that.
that many individuals who are in the classroom, they don't know what precision metal manufacturing is, right? They don't know about the viable careers in manufacturing, but we want to expose their career counselors, their administrative teams, their students, their teachers, and we're going to offer free field trips. We're going to pay for buses, substitutes, lunches. It is, even with all of that, it's still hard to get info out, but we're working really hard to change it. And we've had great turnout at our youth events over the last 2 years.
Are you drowning in boring corporate communications? Palacio and Partners is here to rescue you. We transform internal podcasts from snooze fest to must-listen content that actually connects your team and strengthens your culture. Imagine podcast episodes that make your employees laugh while staying informed. Our founder, Jeff Palacio, doesn't just create podcasts, he creates conversations that break through the noise. Whether you're a growing startup or a massive corporation, we turn your company's story into audio gold. Leadership becomes human. Remote teams feel connected. Your message cuts through the clutter. Palacio and Partners, where corporate communications gets a fun makeover. Let's make your podcast work harder than your email inbox ever could. Jeff is happy to share his insights on podcasting with you. You can contact him via LinkedIn or schedule a Zoom call via the link in the episode description.
I'm a firm believer that college, at least how colleges are today, is not for everyone. There's so many different ways to make money today, but I'd love to hear your take on that.
Yeah, it was interesting. Right out the gate there, early 2024, we were talking about, the need to expose students to the skilled trades. And I was listening to this conversation, from the back, thinking, as a parent of two teenagers, it's not the kids we need to start with, it's the parents. And if the parents don't get behind it, the kids sure aren't going to get behind it. But if all the parents are hearing when they go to, senior award ceremonies is, scholarship awards and monies received, and there's no mention of apprenticeships, internships, what positions students have accepted in the career world. And quite frankly, it's not celebrated whatsoever. How are we going to make a positive change? So that is definitely something we are actively working on. And you're right. I mean, there are amazing programs like JAG, which is Jobs for America's graduates, where like 55% of their program participants are going into career. So things are happening to reach those students, but it still feels secondary. And that is a major problem. We love sports. I love sports. We talked about state basketball and all the sports that my kids participate in. I want to get behind that. But if what kids have a real interest in is career, what are we really doing industry-wise, classroom-wise, school-wise to support that? And we are coming with solutions for it. And it's just getting that information into the right hands.
Yeah, and the reason I brought up Fred being the president, it seemed like you had a board strategy too. You wanted kind of this strong, where you could bounce ideas off of, and it's amazing that when you took over, like in 2024, Fred, who runs Ultratech Aerospace, doesn't even know they belong to the association, and then he becomes president, and you build a board around that.
It was all about finding people that could match energy and had a vision and wanted to do something for the betterment of not only their business, but the manufacturing community. And Jeff, that's a really unique part of being on our board. It's way more than just coming to one board meeting a month. It's a big commitment. But when our board members attend, especially our meetings where we are making decisions, they leave behind their personal business and their relationship to their personal business. And they think about the manufacturing community at large and what is best for precision metal manufacturers in our city. And I'm thankful that they're able to do that. And their ability to do that has led them to be asked to be a part of our board and be a representative of our NTMA group.
Can members compete in the same type of products and or is it exclusive?
Yeah. And that is something that makes our group very unique. People are like, I don't get it. Like, I came from a construction company, right? I'll go visit the guys. They're like, I don't understand. I would not just want to go hang out with other general contractors who are trying to build the same barndominiums we are. Like, that doesn't make sense. But that is actually a reality of our world. It is very true that these member companies very often have the same fabrication, paint, machining capabilities as the guy who's sitting next to them or at the booth at the manufacturer's expo next to them. But we have come to the understanding that collectively we are stronger together. We can accomplish so much more. We can get more attention. We can make more waves. We can advocate better when we do it together. A great example would be our hiring fair that's upcoming April 10th. I would say 9 out of 10 companies are now hiring for a machinist. They're posting online, they're working with staffing agencies, they're doing all of the right things. But That's hard when you're just one company. But if 20, 25, 30 NTMA member companies can come together and we can all put the word out about a single event, we're going to get a heck of a lot more people that show up. We're going to get a lot more interest.
Right.
We're hopefully going to get some media attention behind that about what we're doing to change the face of manufacturing. That puts those company names out there and it puts a face with advanced manufacturing. So when we say stronger together, we really do mean it. Same would be said for our manufacturers expo that we did in the fall of last year. Unique, we're inviting large OEMs, those are original equipment manufacturers, to come in and see our capabilities. That means if they're seeing yours, they're seeing mine, his, hers, everybody else's at the same time. But I think we've come to some sense of acknowledgement of the fact that, Jeff, if you get a job that I don't and it brings more work to the city, that's still more potential for me in the long run. And that's best for Kansas City manufacturing. And that's why members are a part of our group, because they want to be collaborative with one another.
Well, and I think, if you believe in abundance, it's more like, hey, you get to choose. So if you want to work for XYZ manufacturer and not ABC manufacturer, it's just because they're better for that person, and you want to attract the people that are best for you. So like, it's
And if you're
fine.
actively involved in an association and you know the other business owners and you have a personal relationship, that's why we have our networking events. Everybody, you're coming in and you're engaged, right? Like you can have that conversation. And even if you hate to see that person leave, but you know they have a better opportunity, you want what's best for that employee long-term, hopefully. And hopefully you're doing all of the right things in the meantime to be building somebody up to come behind them. And you're a part of the events that we're doing to keep yourself out in front of the community and be involved with the schools and their training programs and supporting those teachers. So you could go to them too and let them know that you have a need for somebody and would like to fill it.
Catherine, compare the kind of the biggest challenge when you started as the executive director compared to kind of what you're trying to achieve 3 years later this year.
Hands down, the biggest challenge when I started was getting people to show up. And then it kind of transitioned into getting the right people to show up. And I would say my biggest challenge now is listening to ideas that are presented to me, or coming up with my own ideas, I guess, using the funds that we have raised to make the most impact. So looking at what's our next move and strategically planning. And I love that. It is so exciting. But knowing that I represent, 77 companies here locally, I want to make the right decisions. And having the great board to bounce those ideas off of has been absolutely crucial and been very helpful.
Catherine, I'm sure, you're probably have a small team. I think maybe it was just you when you started. I'm not sure. I can't remember our first conversation, but I know you have to wear a lot of different hats, and I know you're an avid runner. So talk about the time you're putting together that 14 by 14 trade booth and what
Well,
happened there.
It is just me, and I do like to run, kind of run all the bits and pieces of things. That's a little bit of my controlling nature, a little bit of that teacher side of me as well, just wanting to make sure all the ducks are in a correct row. So, I mean, quite frankly, if something doesn't go right, it's on me and it's not on somebody else, right? But we had an event last year. It was new. It was called a Joint Chapter Summit. We were looking to grow our relationship with the St. Louis chapter. And in the past, there was like a lake event where they did some things, and it was really fun down in the Ozarks area. But this was our first time welcoming St. Louis here. And I had things kind of back to back planned. We had shop tours, breakout sessions, social events. Then the next day, another great shop tour came to Johnson County Community College, toured there, had a panel, had, some great dialogue. And then the culminating event was a workforce initiative that I was also working as executive director for, Bots KC, which is a 15-pound battle bot competition. So students are building and competing their own battle bots. So we had almost 30 teams competing, representing, I believe it was like 18 or 19 schools. Super cool. So I wanted everyone to come through, check out this event, like, large number of kids, like 250 something kiddos, like come meet them. Like, again, put a face with your shop, what you do, and talk to them about the parts that you see that are fabricated, welded, whatever it is. So setting up the cage for that event. Welcomed everybody. We did like a lightning round of introductions, got our keynote speaker going, flew over to Johnson County Community College, have some great partners from Clay and Bailey. Shout out to Andy Borst. He is the man for this, bringing in all the parts of this cage, this 14 by 14 metal cage, which is the real deal because these bots do actual damage. We had a rack of plywood. The wood was going to go under the cage to help with metal shards because these bots are getting blown up, destroyed. And I was trying to just like keep things going so I could get back to the shop tour and then the social event that were going to be happening later that evening. I go to push the rack of plywood, and it seemed to be centered on there, and the rack just tips. And like, thank God I got out from behind this, because I mean, we're talking like, I don't know, 10, 12 sheets of plywood, so super, super heavy. I get out from behind it, but my right foot does not. And obviously it was one piece of plywood, something hits it. Instantly I know my foot is broken, right? Like, it hurt so bad I couldn't even cry a tear. Like, people, I think, realized obviously something was very wrong. I'm not a quiet person. And I just was like, don't talk to me, don't look at me, I need a minute. Also, I try not to be a snippy or rude person, but I'm sure I was in that moment. And they're like, Johnson County Community College, so kind. They're doing all the right protocol. It was not their fault, mine. Like, let's get the trainer. I'm like, I don't want anybody to touch me. So I had kind of, I guess my signature style would be I wear boots a lot of times. So I had boots on, and that way nobody asks if you're wearing steel-toed, shoes in a shop. It's an easy way to get around that. That's kind of where that started. But so I did not want anyone to take it off. End up making it to our next event. Like, get through the cage setup. I kind of sit there. I'm like, throbbing foot pain. Make it over to Pro Charger Accessible Technologies. We do a shop tour. I'm like, I cannot walk this shop tour. I stand in one spot to direct traffic. Parking, was kind of one of the lots was going to close. Do that. Get everybody in. They start the shop tour. I'm like, okay, I'm going to go to serve. We have a pickleball of all things.
Oh my God.
Pickleball event. I've got to handle the payment. I don't know why I don't feel like I can pass this off to anybody, but we've never done this event, Jeff. I feel like I've got to be there, make it through. Truth be told, I ordered a very strong drink when I got there. I'm like, I'm going to try to kill this pain somehow.
Sure,
I played some cornhole. I did not play pickleball. My foot is swelling out my shoe at this point. I stopped in a McDonald's bathroom to change. I did get the boots off, knew they had to come off quickly before that was a real situation. Wrap up the event, and Ryan Nelson of Circle of Five, probably the kindest man I know, I finally realized, like, I'm losing it. He had to help me get to my car. I went to the emergency room. I broke my foot.
Oh my goodness. Wow. Yeah, you went more in depth than when you first told me that story. Oh my God.
Yeah. So then I had to do our golf tournament with a broken foot. I did a lot of things with it wasn't cast, luckily. It was one of those walking boots, which like tremendously did help. I was kind of surprised by that. I was a little unsure if it was going to heal. Yeah, I could not run. Mostly I could not like get to my actual workout class, which is more like high intensity interval, like the jumping stuff, like kind of that quick movement was a lot more bothersome. But now I'm healed, except for one toe. It's kind of like funky.
Obviously couldn't run or do, any type of high intensity workouts. So did you kind of pivot and try to do other things while you couldn't run and do?
I'm a fan of all the things. I love hot yoga, definitely. But even like, some moves like standing, like bearing weight just on that foot was kind of hard to do. But, and like, especially if you're like trying to really balance yourself, some of that, just tried to, I guess, find what I could do. But I loved garden. That was also a pain. So for a while, I got like a jumbo roll of saran wrap, and I like saran wrapped and duct taped around this stupid boot. And then I found on Amazon like a boot cover you could slip on. That was just super hot. But
oh my God. I actually tore my Achilles, and it's a long process. And then I was 1 week, I was 11 weeks, first in a cast, then in a boot. I was 1 week of, I was going to have the boot removed, going on a regular shoe. And I kicked a step in a movie theater going up the, ramp. I was going to the bathroom, and it was the old movie theater at the plaza. It had a step. Usually it's a straight ramp, it's level, but this one but the lights were out, the floor lights, and I kicked it and I went down real fast. And I felt it snap again. I just went to the bathroom, came back. I told my friends that I tore it again, and they thought I was kidding around because I like to joke around. I said, no, I really tore it. And then they were, we need to get you to the doctor. I go, why?
And so what happens? They just did, is that like surgical though, or
I had it fully ruptured the first time, and so then I had to go do the process again. I had surgery to repair it again, and then I had to go through the whole process. So instead of a 12-week process, it became like a 25-week, because I had to do 14 weeks this time, because I had done it back to back.
Which I'm
So,
sure, like, even just like basic walking, if you try to get up and get a drink or something like
oh
that,
yeah,
is just,
and
oh,
yeah. So it was. I could definitely empathize for sure.
oh yeah. I could, the first few days, I think adult injuries are just so much worse. Like
Right. Yeah.
waking up in the night and like
Yeah.
crawling because it hurts so bad to try to
Yeah.
like just get it going again. And you don't
Yeah. Yeah.
obviously sleep with a boot on. Ugh,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, no
Yeah.
more moving plywood. I'm gonna let the
Right.
people who are in charge
Yeah. Yeah.
do the in charge things, and I'm
Yeah.
gonna take a back of the line approach.
Yeah. No, I love it. Love it. Yeah. Talk about like if the people listening out there could help you in your role, or if you had a message for the people listening, what would it be in terms of what you're doing at MTMA?
One thing that stands out with our workforce efforts when we began those in 2024, the greatest minority in manufacturing is women. And so, obviously, as a woman, that was startling to me. But something that I really missed was my teaching community and having friends. So, I'm an independent contractor, as I mentioned. I work remotely. I'm here, there, and everywhere. I love doing things like this, Jeff. I love visiting shops. Any type of event that is, I love to be there. But like not having that go-to community of friends was really hard for me. So I created my own called She Leads Women Driving Manufacturing. And I know that I am not in isolation. And, as I was starting to make some strides and make some moves for our association and wanting to do bigger things, I quite honestly really lacked a lot of confidence. I still needed that validation. I did not feel worthy. At times I still like question the things that I am doing. Like, who picked me to go talk to the senator? Like, how could I possibly be the one? Like, it is just crazy to me where my life has gone, but imposter syndrome is real, and it's very real for women who are a minority in their environment. So spreading the word about our She Leads initiative would be something I would ask. If you are a female that works in or around the manufacturing space, you are absolutely invited to attend our monthly events. Those are for the education and empowerment of females in industry.
No, that's yeah.
And I'm just going to say we do some really fun stuff. So we alternate every other month, educational and 8 to 9:30. So women who are paid hourly can have that time monetized, as what they are doing is absolutely going to help them better themselves in the workplace, and quite frankly, better those that work around them as well. And then the next month we do something socially more networking, and that is after hours. But it's usually things that celebrate our city as well. So one of my favorite events, though it took a turn, was we did one of the urban hikes through Urban Hike KC, which was phenomenal. We were supposed to be on a modified hike, wanted to be accommodating to all of our participants. It was supposed to be 2 miles. And it ended up being like 15,000 steps, so a lot more than 2 miles.
Oh wow!
Yeah. We had to take the streetcar back.
Oh, wow.
It was a good time. But we did cookie decorating last month, which was a good time. We're going to do a build your own bouquet and plant swap event in May. But most notably, we do female youth engagement events as well. And we have one upcoming April 22nd, and that will be at Marvin, the new window facility in KCK. And then we're actually going to finish at Ultratech, which is Fred's shop. So it is my favorite to take our female students or any students to what I would consider a large enterprise, and then contrast that with a smaller, more independently owned business. It's really cool. Last year, we took students to Hutamaki, and they have a food court and a fitness center and all kinds of amazing things. And some of those are real draws for, young adults. Then you go to a small family-owned business. We went to C&R Manufacturing, and, some students are instantly drawn, to the independence that and the creativity that they can have in a small shop where they can present an idea. And sometimes they're going to get the green light to go for it. Or if they, a little further down the road have a project, something they want to work on, branch off maybe into something, even their own business, they might get some shop time that they're allowed to do that. So just definite benefits to both.
Katherine, I'm sure you've done an outstanding job, really, since you started in 2023, getting new members. But those prospective members that listen to this episode with you, what would you say to them in terms of the benefits of joining the chapter?
I would say for us, membership is not about a number or a quota, but it's really about supporting the needs of our active members and knowing that, through membership, you have strength behind you, and you can use that to your benefit for your individual advocacy efforts, be that second chance hiring, supporting women in industry, or a specific business need where you need real funding and that is coming at the government level. We want to get behind you. We want to support that. We want to connect you with others in industry, and even through the National NTMA Association. Let's go to DC and let's find the right people to talk about. And really, having the numbers that we do, we can hopefully get you the attention that you need for whatever cause it is. And, really, if you have an idea for an event or something that could better your business, it's most likely going to help others in our group too. So I would say open collaboration is key. It's great. And it's why we do the events that we do. So let me know if you have an idea or if you want to come to an event.
Yeah, I love that. Well, I can't imagine a prospective member not wanting to, work under, what you're doing and your energy and your enthusiasm to do great things for the association is
well,
fantastic.
I hope so. There's still a few that I'm kind of beyond elbow on. I'm kicking in shins now. Like, come out with us. But hopefully things like the hiring fair, real life solutions to real problems that people are facing. That is what it's about. And, just seeing that we have 20 member companies that want to be a part of that. They want to come put a face to manufacturing. They want to engage with the future workforce. Seeing that progressive activity makes me feel like what we're doing is working. And then we get to have a lot of fun at the golf tournament. With this year, we got the bump to Friday. We've been on a Thursday, but last year's numbers were so great. Hopefully we sell it out. And then we use all those funds to support all of our youth events, like the hiring fair, the female youth engagement events, all of our field trips, and even our externships, those adult educator exposure events. So lots of fun.
What date is the golf tournament?
Are you a golfer, Jeff?
I am a golfer. Well, no, I should say I pay the greens fees. I don't know if they would call me officially a golfer, but
well, I'll answer quickly. It's May 1st, Friday, May 1st, and I was a little concerned due to Fred and maybe a few other people pointing at myself that we might not be asked back to the golf course, but we did, and we got the premiere day, so we're really excited about that. It was a great time last year.
That's great, almost too great, I guess. If you had a little maybe. We're not going to be invited back.
Which I guess means it was an epic time, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
I'll tell you what else was an epic time. We took our She Leads ladies out for a day date on the green, and we did just a little like tee box practice prior to the golf tournament. And I actually thought I was going to die on several occasions when we had, as I mentioned, I'm athletic and I love sports. I'm not a golfer, but I can still hit the ball forward. We had several occasions women hit from one tee box into another tee box.
I've seen that happen. I think
the second or third time, and then someone's backswing almost hit somebody. I was like, we're done. To the bar, ladies. Let's go get a celebratory drink.
I love that. That's great. Katherine, I love helping two groups of people. One's at a recent college graduate or even high school graduate now that is going to start their professional career. What advice would you have for them as they approach getting that first job as well as starting their career?
Great question. Find a mentor and find a mentor that you can really trust. Look at the decisions they make and look at the people they associate with. Is that person making good decisions for themselves professionally? If they are, be like them. That honestly, that is what I have done the last 3 years. I've found people that I look up to that have it going on, and I do what they're doing. And I am humble enough to say, I do not have it all figured out, and I want to learn from you. Can we go to lunch? I'll pay.
Well, there you go.
And especially if you're a young adult, there are older individuals, middle-aged individuals, myself at the top of that list, that want to support you and your growth. And I would say that is very common in manufacturing. We discuss the competition aspect of things, but when it comes to mentorship, there are people, there are adults that want to see you be successful, and they want to cheer for you. So find that mentor and get involved in a networking group. I think that when you build those true and genuine relationships, not those that are sales-based, but true relationships, when you have a problem, you can vent that problem and you can get real help. And if that individual, your mentor or somebody close within your network doesn't have the answer, they will know somebody that has it. That has been crucial for myself and for all of those that I find to be greatly successful within the NTMA group.
The second group is, well, anybody can be a leader, whether you have direct reports or not, but the people that taking that first step to be a first time manager and be responsible for a group of people, what advice would you have for them as they begin that leadership journey?
Well, Jeff, I don't have a team underneath me, though I have a lot of people that I feel I report to and that I represent. And initially, it was really hard for me to take risks because what if it didn't work out? And what if nobody showed up? What if it was a flop? But on the flip side, what if it's not? And it leads to more relationships and leads to more growth. That's what happened for me. It was successful. So take the risk. You're going to see great reward. That reward for me has been through connections with other people. And as our web grows, our association grows, and what we're capable of doing has just become infinite from where we started.
Yeah, great advice. Take risks. Don't fear failure. Failure is learning.
Which I get. I mean, that I can't imagine what that would be like as an owner, president, even a business development manager, whatever that role is, and knowing that if it fails, those impacts are going to be huge. But at some level, that risk has to happen. It has to be assumed.
Katherine, thank you so much for coming on the Corporate Couch. I loved our discussion and conversation. You're open book, and I love sharing the stories. And I'm sorry I had to bring up your driving and your failure to hating backing up cars. So thank you again.
Yes, thank you. I appreciate you, Jeff, and hopefully we'll see you out on the golf course.
Okay. Joe, for Katherine, she told the story how, I guess she raises chickens and how she had some chickens basically crashed a podcast she was doing that she does on a fairly consistent basis with some podcast host. And she had to excuse herself to go chase and escape chickens. I'm glad it didn't happen in our episode.
Yeah, we didn't get to meet the chickens, did we?
Right. Yeah, so there you go. Also, I learned the term, I made fun because Fred Stipkovitz, who introduced us, told me that she's a terrible driver and he's had to back up her car. And she called herself a passenger princess. I had never heard that.
That works.
I thought that was funny. Yeah, there were so many good lessons, I thought, too, in her career. So, I don't know, about 10, 11 years as a elementary school teacher. If you remember, we had Linda Endicott, the iconic Kansas City, I'll say matriarch, that grew up in Valley Forge, Pennsylvania. She started as a kindergarten teacher, so it reminded me a little bit of her story. But, all the lessons. And there was one she shared, and I forget what the question was, but how she, when she was a teacher, worked backwards from kind of the failure points, in terms of teaching and what those failure points would be. So, topics that were hard to grasp, and she would work backwards and did, a planning to make sure she covered that in a way because she knew those were going to be the pain points. To me, it was, and I think she applies that today when she works with her association companies in terms of, let's see where the pain points are and work backwards from that to understand what we need to learn and how do we instruct and whatever that is.
That'd be good in any group dynamics in business, with the group that you're managing or something, to find out what their pain points are first and work backwards from there.
And I know woo-woo was a term a while back. Now it's more accepted, but I loved her experiment in elementary school to teach the kids about positive talk versus negative. So they planted 2 plants, and every day a certain group of students would say positive things to one plant. The other half of the students would say negative talk to the other plant, and literally the plant with the negative talk eventually basically died and the other one flourished. So just interesting that, we're all molecules out there, and, words mean things. And so you leaders out there, talk nice to your people,
And your plants.
And your plants.
good parenting lesson too.
There you go.
And then, like many people on the corporate couch, it's about personal life, right? It's all, your son had cardiac arrest at birth, multiple, near death moments in terms of surgery upon surgery upon surgery, and what she had to go through with that and how that impacted her career and her career choices at the time, just like many of our guests. And now her son's flourishing. He's a varsity athlete. So, I mean, pivoting from an elementary school teacher to running, the Kansas City chapter of the National Tooling and Machinery Association. To me, it was a great story. And she's a vibrant personality. And I didn't even talk about the time she broke her foot because, all this plywood fell on it during a robotic competition they were holding for STEM, and she continued to go on and host the event and do a factory tour, and went to the pickleball thing, social event afterwards, had a stiff drink, and then went to the ER.
Yeah.
I thought that was just showed a lot about her.
And breaking your foot is kind of a hard thing to mask or to baby. You are going to walk on your foot. If you break your wrist or something, you could kind of let that dangle, but your foot, you can't really do that. So
Right.
That was really interesting. She had one more proof, if you will, and we've had several of these on our Corporate Couch interviews, of college is not for everybody. And how many times do we have to say that college is not for everybody, even though our target audience really is entrepreneurs and businessmen and CEOs and that kind of stuff. But you've got to remember that not everybody is going to go to college. Not everybody should go to college. And so now she works in kind of an interesting situation, because she's working with corporations that are machinist corporations, but all the people in there are tradespeople. They're machinists, and they are there because they decided to take whatever trade schooling and education they needed to become a machinist. And they've kind of found their niche, just like you and I found our niche through college and through business. They're finding their niche through trade school and machinists and that kind of stuff. I've always had a soft spot for machinists, because my dad, among other things, was a carpenter. So he was always making things out of wood. My dad could make anything as long as it was out of wood,
Right.
And then I've discovered later that there's this such thing as a machinist that does the exact same thing but makes it out of metal. So they put on a lathe and they cut it and they polish it and they do all sorts of things to make sure that it's the exact right size and shape, and they can make any shape in the world but out of metal instead of out of wood. And I thought that was kind of interesting. It was a very interesting interview, and I really enjoyed it.
Joe, you're always the jokester. What's going on? Give me a joke.
I got a joke about jokes. So hear me out on this. Why are Boy, don't hear me out on that. Hear me out on this one. Why are elevator jokes so classic?
Why, Joe?
Because they work on so many levels.
Boom.
I knew I was going to say elephant instead of elevator. I knew that, and in my brain, you get that going, and then...
You might want to keep it in. I don't know. It's kind of, let me... you make the call on that.
We'll see how that sounds.
All right. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of The Corporate Couch. If you enjoy the podcast, I would love for you to take 2 minutes out of your day to rate us 5 stars and write a review. Please join me next week to learn from another great leader sharing their professional journey and insights. Boom.